YouTube family, I'm not giving up on Sparking Zero yet. And I know that it's easy right now to go grab your 20,000, 30,000 views by talking about how you are done with Sparking Zero and you're finally dropping it and you're finally giving up on it and maybe you're going back to Tekken or whatever you want to do. And by all means, I love for people to use their voice. The reason why I'm not giving up on Sparking Zero yet, the first reason at least, is that I actually really enjoy the game. Right? When I think about the core intentions behind the game, because every developer has an intention behind the experience that they expect to create with a game, right? And I think they're very clear about how to operate within that experience, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be creative. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be like an individual, but there is a bit of an intention about how the game is supposed to be played. And I think when people buy into that, whether you run into somebody in a ranked match, whether you run into somebody in a casual match, when you get into it with that person and you have that fight, oh, it is so satisfying. And I get it. You can't control how other people play, right? So if somebody decides they want to spam, if somebody decides they want to try to abuse certain tactics, at the end of the day, right, it's in the game, that's what they get to do. And I have my frustrations with those type of people for sure. And I know one of the easier things to do is just to blame everything on the developers, right? We know how popular that has been within the community. And I honestly believe that it's totally worth it when you get that experience and you run into that person, whether it's a casual lobby or whether it's ranked or whether you just have a friend that really knows what it's supposed to be about. When you have that match and you have that fight, it's so enriching and satisfying, and it's even addicting. And so it's always worth it to me. Yeah, I don't like people who just go in and they spam certain moves with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta or Ultra Instinct Goku or whomever, right? I get it. But every time I go in with my training partner and we have one of those intense matches, it's always worth it. When I find that random person online and they just want to come in and fight, and we message each other at the end and we're like, respect, it's always worth it to me, right? So that's my number one reason. I feel like every developer has an intention for their game. And I feel like this is one of those games where if you operate within that intention, the game is very, very, very satisfying, very satiating, right? There's just no denying that. The second reason why I'm not giving up on Sparking Zero is because I remember Dragon Ball Fighterz, and I wanted to make a separate video about it, but I'll go ahead and do this now. One of the things that I love about Fighterz, and I will always respect Fighterz for this, I think that Fighterz was so good. I think Fighterz was so good that Bandai and just the Dragon Ball development gaming community in general said that we cannot top Fighterz with just another Xenoverse. We can't top it with really any other game. We can't compete with Fighterz with really any other game unless we bring back one of the best Dragon Ball gaming experiences ever, which is the Tenkaichi series, the Sparking series. I genuinely believe that because of how well Fighterz did, they knew that they had to do something just extraordinary and out of this world in order to continue the Dragon Ball gaming excitement, right? Because I don't think that Xenoverse was going to be able to do that. And so in a way, Fighterz is very indirectly responsible for the fact that we were able to play a Tenkaichi game again. But I remember the first couple of years, I really didn't like Fighterz that much. I didn't enjoy it very much. I wasn't disappointed in it. I wasn't frustrated with it, but there was nothing that made me sit down and want to practice it a lot. There was nothing that made me want to get good at it. And then I think it was season 3 that they released some updates. They made a few changes. I think they added a comeback mechanic where your final character is a little bit stronger. I can't remember the exact name of the mechanic. And it was during that where I kind of found my team. I started running Android 17, Bardock, and Frieza. And that's when I really started to get into Fighterz. And that's when I really started dumping, like all the hours that I have in Fighterz are all dumped 3 seasons in, right? Basically a couple of years in, and then dipping into the end of the Fighterz life cycle. And so for me, that's what gaming is really about. I guess because I waited 15 years to be able to play this game again, I am okay with the best version of the game being 2 years from now. And I'm not gonna let something like, oh, I don't like the way other players choose to play it, be the thing that makes me not play it. Because at the end of the day, I can find somebody in this world that we have, with the technology that we have, with the way to communicate and socialize the way we have. I do UGC. Do you know how many social media apps are out there, right? Not just for regular old talking and texting and dating, but stuff for gamers now. I can find somebody that wants to play Sparking Zero the way that I want to play. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but my best experience doesn't have to come within the first couple of months of the game being out. If my best experience with a game is a year or two out, I'm totally okay with that. I do, of course, obviously, have to have some sort of satisfaction. I gotta be able to have some excitement or some fun with the game at launch, obviously. But I don't have this expectation that it has to be what I want it to be, or what I expect it to be, or what I imagined it can be at launch, or even the first couple of months of launch, right? Or even after the first couple of patches, especially when it comes to a game like Sparking Zero that is coming from 15 years back, and then also trying to exist in a totally different culture of gaming, especially as it relates to kind of online play and whatnot. And so for me, I'm not so worried that, oh man, maybe this game isn't exactly what I wanted it to be in the first 4 months. That's okay for me. And there's been a lot of games that I guess because I waited 15 years for, oh wow, this is a little too bright. I think I'm just at a point in my gaming experience where I don't mind allowing a game to mature into itself over time. I know people say, well, they should have had a beta for it, or they should have hired a bunch of game testers to get all these different issues done, or they should have done this. To me, I just have grown into a place where I understand what the culture is now and what is demanded upon by developers and what audiences' expectations are, even if they say one thing and mean another. And so if it's a couple of years down the line that the game is the greatest it's ever been and maybe surpasses Tenkaichi 3 or even maybe surpasses Fighters or whatever, I'm totally fine with that. But what I'm not gonna do is I'm not going to just allow the way a very particular group of people decide to play, people who I don't feel like are in the game for the long haul anyway. I'm not gonna let them determine whether or not I continue to grind out in a game that I've waited for years. So no, I'm not I'm not dropping Sparking Zero, and I don't see myself dropping. I've seen the moments that I feel like can be replicated time and time again with the right people and the right situations, to where I'm just gonna continue to be excited about making Sparking Zero content. So this is the end of the video. If you like the video, like it. If you think someone else might like it, share it. And if you want to see more, I really hope that you would subscribe.